News of the legendary weapon spread beyond the Academy faster than Jiwoo expected. Within a day, galactic media outlets were running stories about the farmer's blade. Most of the coverage was mocking. Headlines called it everything from Earth's desperate gambit to primitive human brings antique to gunfight. Coalition weapons researchers sent requests to study the knife. Museums offered to display it. Private collectors sent messages with credit offers that made Jiwoo's head spin. One collector offered enough money to transform her entire village, to give every family wealth beyond their dreams. Jiwoo refused every offer. Her grandfather's final words to her had been clear. This blade is not for selling or showing. It is for wielding. Honor that purpose, but the pressure kept building. Earth's diplomatic delegation contacted her directly. They were polite but firm. Humanity was new to the coalition, still proving itself worthy of membership. Her match against Crix had become symbolic. If she lost badly, it would confirm alien suspicions that humans were too primitive, too weak, too inferior to contribute meaningfully to the coalition. You carry the reputation of our entire species, the diplomat told her over a video call. We're not asking you to win. We're asking you to make it close, to show we belong here. Use every advantage you have. Her brother sent a message too. Daehyun was serving on a coalition warship, one of the first humans assigned to an integrated crew. Little sister, I know you hate pressure, but think about the humans coming after you. If you lose with your best effort, no one can criticize. But if you hold back and lose, if you don't use the blade grandfather gave you, people will say you didn't try. They'll say we're not serious about being part of the coalition. Jiwoo sat in her room holding the knife, feeling the weight of millions of people's expectations. She'd come to the academy to learn, to grow, to honor her grandfather. She hadn't expected to become a symbol. What do I do? She whispered to the blade, knowing it couldn't answer. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Instructor Rowe stood in the hallway. The Keltharian weapons master rarely visited cadet quarters. His insectoid features were hard to read, but his forearms carried a data pad. May I enter, Cadet Jiwoo? She stepped aside quickly. Instructors didn't ask permission. They commanded. Rowe settled into a chair, his chitinous body folding in ways that looked uncomfortable but probably weren't. I have lived 400 years, he began. I have trained warriors from 70 species. I have seen 3 legendary weapons wielded in actual combat. He paused, antennae twitching. Each time, the weapon changed the wielder forever. Are you prepared for that? I don't understand, Jiwoo admitted. Legendary weapons are not simply well-made tools. They become extensions of the wielder's will. Rowe tapped his datapad, showing ancient texts. Your knife was forged from metal that traveled through space for billions of years before landing on Earth. It carries cosmic history. When you fight with it, you don't fight only with your own strength. You fight with the accumulated intent your grandfather poured into every hammer strike, every hour at the forge, every decision about angle and edge and balance. He showed her recordings of legendary weapons in use. A blade that moved like liquid light. A staff that seemed to know where attacks would come from before they happened. A shield that absorbed impossible amounts of damage without cracking. These look like magic, Jiwoo said. Not magic. Harmony. Rowe's multifaceted eyes fixed on her. When wielder and weapon achieve perfect unity, the boundary between them dissolves. The blade becomes your intent made solid. Your intent becomes the blade's purpose. But this unity demands absolute honesty. You cannot lie to a legendary weapon. You cannot use it for purposes that contradict its nature. My grandfather made it to protect, Jiwoo said quietly. He found the meteorite at a battlefield where people had died. He wanted to create something from that destruction, something that would defend life instead of taking it. Then that is its nature. That is what it will help you do. Rowe stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. Coalition archivists researched your knife's metal signature while processing the legendary classification. They found something interesting. He showed her records from Earth's history. 800 years ago, during Korea's Goryeo dynasty, a warrior woman had defended her village against raiders. Historical accounts described her blade as touched by heaven and unbreakable. After her death, the blade vanished from records. The metallurgical signature suggests your knife contains fragments of that ancient weapon, Rowe explained. Your grandfather may not have found a random meteorite. He may have found a legacy weapon, broken or melted down through centuries, waiting to be reborn. Jiwoo stared at the records. Her knife was connected to history she'd never imagined. Warriors from centuries past defending their homes with the same metal. After Ro left, Jiwoo researched deeper. Her grandfather had made pilgrimages to old battlefields throughout his life. He'd told people he was searching for metal with memory, for materials that had been used honorably and could be purified, reforged for new purposes. He'd believed that weapons used to protect innocence absorbed righteous intent. That metal remembered its purpose and could be reborn stronger. Her knife wasn't just a tool. It was a tradition spanning centuries, maybe longer. Every time it had protected someone, it carried that memory forward. The next day, Nyla found Jiwoo in the training hall. "You look different, more settled." "I've been learning about what I carry," Jiwoo said. She explained what Ro had told her, about the ancient weapon, about legendary arms requiring harmony between wielder and blade. "My people have similar beliefs," Nyla said. "We say that sacred objects choose their bearers as much as bearers choose them. Your grandfather didn't give you this knife randomly. The blade itself approved the choice." "That sounds mystical," Jiwoo said, slightly skeptical. "Is it? You said the handle feels warm when you hold it. Does it feel warm when others hold it?" Jiwoo thought back to the weapons inspection, to Ro examining the blade. Neither had mentioned warmth. "I always thought that was just my imagination." "Perhaps. Or perhaps the blade recognizes its true wielder." Nyla spread her wings slightly. "In 3 days you face Crix. Are you still afraid?" "Yes," Jiwoo admitted, "but not of losing. I'm afraid of fighting for the wrong reasons. Everyone wants me to prove humanity is strong, to defend Earth's reputation. But my grandfather made this blade to protect, not to prove anything." "Then fight for the right reason," Nyla suggested. "Fight to honor your grandfather's craft. Fight to show that mastery matters more than genetic advantages. Fight because the blade's nature is to defend, and you're defending the principle that dedication and skill deserve respect." That made sense. Jiwoo had been so worried about everyone else's expectations that she'd forgotten her own purpose. She spent the next 2 days in focused preparation. She watched recordings of Crix's matches, studying his style. The Vorlian was overwhelming but also predictable. He relied on his crystalline body's natural defense, barely bothering to dodge attacks. He let opponents exhaust themselves, striking his hardened form, then crushed them when they tired. No cadet had ever cut him. No weapon had penetrated his defense. But Jiwoo thought about what Ro had taught her. Legendary weapons could do what normal weapons couldn't. If her blade carried her grandfather's master-level craftsmanship and billions of years of cosmic history, maybe it could do what seemed impossible. Tae-sung helped her strategize. "Even if you can cut him, he's still faster and stronger than you. You need to make him fight your battle, not his." "My grandfather taught me that superior strength can be redirected," Jiwoo said. "He showed me that speed can be anticipated if you understand patterns." She practiced those old techniques with new understanding. Her grandfather had taught her how to fight opponents who were bigger, stronger, faster. He'd lived in an era before humanity joined the coalition, but the principles remained true. Strength could be redirected, speed could be predicted, power could be avoided. The night before the match, Jiwoo didn't train. She sat in the quiet of her room, holding her knife, clearing her mind. She thought about her grandfather at his forge, patient and focused. She thought about warriors from centuries past defending their homes. She thought about the meteorite traveling through space for longer than human civilization had existed. She felt the warmth in the handle and understood it wasn't her imagination. It was the blade recognizing her, accepting her, preparing to work with her. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we honor the craft. We show them what mastery really means." The knife seemed to hum in agreement, or maybe that was just her heartbeat pulsing through her palm. Either way, she was ready. The academy ran on a brutal ranking system. Every week, cadets fought in combat trials. Winners moved up the rankings. Losers fell down. The top cadets got better training, better equipment, and respect. The bottom cadets got extra duties and mockery. After the first week of trials, Jiwoo understood why humans had never succeeded at the academy before. The alien species had advantages that Earth simply couldn't match. The Vorlians, like Crix, could harden their crystalline bodies until they were almost impossible to hurt. The Thalaxians had reflexes 3 times faster than humans. The Erythians could fly, attacking from angles that ground-based fighters couldn't easily defend against. Jiwoo lost her first match badly. Her opponent was a Thalaxian named Vec, who moved so fast she barely saw his strikes coming. She tried to defend, but he hit her 4 times before she could react once. The match lasted 30 seconds. She spent the next 2 days in the medical bay with bruised ribs and a concussion. Her second match was against a 4-armed Keltharian who simply overpowered her. She managed to land a few hits with her training staff, but it didn't matter. He grabbed her with 2 arms, blocked her weapon with the third, and struck her with the fourth. Another loss. The third match was against an Erythian who flew circles around her, striking from above and behind. Jiwoo never even touched her opponent before the match was called. 3 losses. 3 trips to medical. Jiwoo found herself ranked near the bottom of all cadets, right alongside most of the other humans. Only a handful of human cadets had won any matches at all, and those were against other humans. Hana confronted her in their shared quarters after the third loss. "You have a legendary weapon," she said, frustrated. "Why aren't you using it? You're making all of us look weak." Jiwoo cleaned her grandfather's knife slowly, carefully. She did this every night, even though she hadn't used it in combat yet. "My grandfather taught me that a blade drawn carelessly is a blade dishonored." "I'm not ready." "Not ready? When will you be ready? After Crix destroys you in front of everyone?" Hana shook her head. "I came from a wealthy family. I trained my whole life. I have expensive equipment, and I'm losing to aliens who barely try. You have something special and you won't use it. I don't understand you." Jiwoo didn't have a good answer. The truth was she was afraid. Afraid the knife wouldn't help. Afraid she'd prove that even a legendary weapon couldn't make a human competitive. Afraid she'd dishonor her grandfather's work by losing while using his blade. But she kept that fear to herself and continued training. The academy grounds had training rooms that stayed open all night. Jiwoo started going there after everyone else slept. She practiced the forms her grandfather had taught her, old Korean martial arts that dated back hundreds of years. Her grandfather had learned them from his grandfather, who learned them from his, all the way back through generations. The forms felt strange after using academy fighting styles all day. The academy taught aggressive, direct combat optimized for the varied alien physiologies. Her grandfather's techniques were different. They focused on balance, timing, and using an opponent's strength against them. She practiced with her knife, moving through sequences that her grandfather had drilled into her since childhood. The blade felt right in her hand, like it was part of her arm. Each movement flowed into the next without thought. One night she realized she wasn't alone. Tae-sung, another human cadet, stood in the doorway watching her. "How long have you been there?" she asked, slightly embarrassed. "Long enough," he said. He'd been one of the cadets who laughed at her knife during inspection. But his expression now showed no mockery. "That style is nothing like what the instructors teach." "My grandfather's techniques," Jiwoo explained. "Traditional Korean martial arts. They look slow, old-fashioned." Tae-sung stepped into the room. "But you move differently when you practice them. More centered, more focused." He hesitated. "I've been watching your academy matches. You fight like you're trying to copy the aliens, but when you practice alone, you fight like yourself." Jiwoo had never thought about it that way. He was right. In matches, she tried to be fast like the Thalaxians, strong like the Keltharians. She tried to be something she wasn't. But in these quiet training sessions, she moved naturally, using techniques refined over centuries for human bodies, human reflexes, human strengths. "Maybe I've been learning the wrong lessons," she admitted. The next day, another cadet approached her. Nyla was an Erythian with silver wings and large eyes that seemed to see everything. She'd won all her matches so far, ranked in the top 20 overall. "I watched your trial match yesterday," Nyla said, her voice musical. "You fought poorly. But I have also watched you train at night." Jiwoo felt her face flush. "I didn't know anyone else was there. I often train late as well. The night is peaceful." Nyla's wings rustled softly. "My people value ancient craftsmanship. We believe that objects made with devotion carry the maker's spirit. Your knife is such an object, but you fight like you fear it." "I'm not afraid of the knife," Jiwoo protested. "No, you fear dishonoring your grandfather's memory." Nyla tilted her head. "But consider this. Your grandfather spent 30 years creating that blade. Then he chose you. Not your decorated soldier brother, not any other descendant. He chose you specifically. Do you think he made a mistake?" Jiwoo thought about her grandfather, about the day he gave her the knife. He'd said something then that she'd never fully understood. "The blade is complete. Now you must complete yourself." "What did he mean?" she asked Nyla. "Legendary weapons are rare because they require perfect harmony between creator, creation, and wielder," Nyla explained. "Your grandfather's part is done. The blade's part is done. Now you must become worthy of what you carry, not by being someone else but by being fully yourself." That night Jiwoo meditated with the knife. She stopped thinking about rankings, about Crix's challenge, about proving humans belonged at the academy. She thought instead about her grandfather's forge, about the mountains where she grew up, about the traditions passed through her family for generations. She thought about what made her different from the aliens. Not weak or different. The aliens had genetic advantages. Humans had something else. They had cultures that stretched back thousands of years, techniques refined across countless generations, knowledge accumulated and preserved through dedication. Her grandfather's knife wasn't just metal. It was history made solid. It was every hour he spent learning his craft, every lesson passed down through his teachers, every moment of patience and care in its creation. And she was part of that same chain. Not a weak link. Part of the chain. Jiwoo started training differently. She stopped trying to match alien advantages and started working with human strengths. Humans couldn't match Thalaxian speed, but they could learn patterns and anticipate attacks. They couldn't match Keltharian strength, but they could redirect force instead of meeting it head-on. They couldn't match Erythian flight, but they could control ground positioning. She practiced with her knife every night, no longer hiding what she was. She combined her grandfather's techniques with academy knowledge, finding ways to adapt old wisdom to new challenges. Tae-sung joined her sometimes, learning the traditional forms. "These techniques feel strange," he admitted, "but they make sense. The academy teaches us to fight like aliens. These forms teach us to fight like humans." Other human cadets noticed the change in Jiwoo. She started winning training matches, not against the top-ranked aliens yet, but against cadets her own level. She moved with confidence now, no longer second-guessing every action. Then the announcement came. The midterm championship was approaching. The top 10 ranked cadets would compete in formal matches broadcast across the coalition. It was a huge honor. Humans had never qualified before. Crix, of course, ranked first. No one had come close to defeating him. He won matches so easily that instructors started giving him handicaps, making him fight multiple opponents at once. He still won. Through a combination of strategic victories and other cadets' losses, Jiwoo barely qualified for the championship in 10th place. She'd used only training weapons so far, saving her grandfather's knife. The day after rankings were announced, Crix found her in the training hall. "Finally," he said, his crystalline body glowing with satisfaction. "I'll face you in the championship. Third match. The whole coalition will watch as I shatter your precious relic and prove Earth breeds only cowards." Commander Vex made it official that afternoon. Jiwoo versus Crix, 3 days to prepare. The entire academy was talking about it. Betting pools formed, with odds heavily against Jiwoo. Hana apologized that night. "I was wrong to pressure you before. I see now that you were preparing, not hiding. But can you really beat him?" Jiwoo held her grandfather's knife, feeling its familiar warmth. "I don't know, but I'm ready to try." The transport ship descended toward the massive orbital station that housed the Galactic Defense Academy. Jiwoo pressed her face against the viewport, watching the structure grow larger. It looked like a small city floating in space with lights glowing from thousands of windows. She clutched her worn duffel bag tighter. Inside was everything she owned. 3 uniforms, basic supplies, and her grandfather's knife wrapped carefully in cloth. Around her, other cadets from Earth prepared for docking. Most came from wealthy families in the big cities. They wore expensive clothes and carried cases filled with advanced weapons. Plasma pistols, energy shields, and nanotech armor that cost more than her family's farm made in 10 years. One boy near her was showing off a rifle that could supposedly punch through starship hull plating. Jiwoo looked down at the simple knife on her belt. The handle was smooth wood, dark with age and handling. The blade was steel, nothing fancy. Her grandfather had made it with his own hands in his forge back in the mountains. He'd told her it was special, but she knew the other cadets would just see an old knife. The ship docked with a metallic clang. The doors opened and Jiwoo got her first real look at alien species. She'd seen them on screens, of course, but standing next to them was different. A reptilian creature with scales that shimmered like oil on water walked past, easily twice her height. A being made of what looked like living crystal floated by, refracting light into rainbow patterns. Something with wings and forearms glided overhead, laughing with its companions. "Stay together, Earth cadets," called out their escort, a human officer who'd been at the academy for 2 years. "Orientation is in 1 hour. Weapons inspection first." They followed him through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Aliens of every description filled the halls. Some stopped to stare at the humans. Jiwoo heard whispers in languages she didn't understand. But the tone was clear enough. Curiosity, amusement. Some looked at them like they were children playing soldier. The weapons inspection room was enormous. Hundreds of cadets lined up at scanning stations, registering their equipment. The scanners were sophisticated machines that could analyze any weapon, cataloging its capabilities and ensuring nothing illegal entered the academy. Jiwoo waited in line behind a massive alien whose skin looked like rock. He placed 3 different energy weapons on the scanner, each one making the machine hum and display impressive statistics. When he moved on, Jiwoo stepped up to the station. The technician, a being with too many eyes, looked at her expectantly. Jiwoo unclipped her grandfather's knife from her belt and placed it on the scanning surface. The simple steel blade looked ridiculous next to all the high-tech weapons that had come before it. Someone behind her laughed. Then someone else. Within seconds, a crowd had gathered. "Is that a cooking knife?" someone asked. "Maybe she's here for the culinary program," another voice joked. A crystalline figure pushed through the crowd. Jiwoo recognized him from the transport briefing. Crix, a Vorlian cadet, already famous even though classes hadn't started yet. His species had conquered 3 star systems before joining the coalition. He was ranked in the top 10 cadets before even arriving, based on his species' natural advantages. "The primitive human sent a farmer's daughter with a butter knife," Crix announced, his voice resonating like glass bells. His crystalline body caught the light, making him look like a living jewel. "This is what Earth offers the coalition?" No wonder they were the last species invited. More laughter. Even some of the human cadets looked embarrassed. Jiwoo felt her face grow hot, but she kept her eyes on the scanner. Her grandfather had taught her better than to respond to mockery with anger. The scanner finished its analysis. The display screen flickered. Then it went blank. Then it flared brilliant white, so bright that people shielded their eyes. Alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The technician's many eyes went wide. He tapped the screen, certain there was an error. The display stabilized, showing information that made him lean closer in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered. The words appeared on the screen in letters large enough for the gathered crowd to read. "Material meteoric iron. Earth designation. Nantan meteorite, age 4 billion years craftsmanship, master level classification. Legendary artifact combat effectiveness. Immeasurable." The laughter died instantly. Cadets pressed closer, reading and rereading the display. The technician touched several controls, running the scan again. The same results appeared. Heavy footsteps approached. The crowd parted as Commander Vex entered the room. The Thalaxian officer had trained warriors for 2 centuries. His reptilian face showed no emotion, but his eyes fixed on the scanner display with an intensity that made everyone step back. "Legendary," he said quietly. He looked at Jiwoo, then at the knife. "In 200 years, I have seen only 3 weapons classified as legendary by our systems. 2 were ancient relics from species that existed before the coalition. The 3rd was wielded by a warrior who died saving an entire colony world." He picked up the knife carefully, examining it with respect. "This was made on Earth by hand?" "My grandfather made it," Jiwoo said, finding her voice. "He was a blacksmith. He found the meteorite fragment in the mountains and spent 30 years learning how to forge it properly." Vex turned the blade, watching how light played along its edge. "The database shows that legendary classification is not given for age or material alone. The craftsmanship must be perfect. The balance must be flawless. The intent of the maker must be pure." He handed the knife back to Jiwoo. "Your grandfather was a master. This blade is a work of art." Crick stepped forward, his earlier mockery replaced by something harder. "A lucky find does not make a warrior. Anyone can carry a legendary weapon. Using it properly is another matter entirely." Commander Vex's eyes narrowed. "You wish to challenge her?" "Not now," Crick said. "But soon." In the combat trials, I want to see if this farmer girl can actually use her grandfather's toy, or if she just carries it for show. He looked at Jiwoo directly. When we face each other, I will shatter that blade and prove that Earth's first Academy class was a mistake. The commander looked like he wanted to object, but the rules were clear. Cadets could challenge each other during official trials. He turned to Jiwoo. The knife is registered. You may keep it, but I suggest you learn to use it well. Crix does not make empty threats. Jiwoo clipped the knife back to her belt. Her hand trembled slightly, but not from fear. She was remembering her grandfather's words the day he gave her the blade. He'd made her promise never to draw it in anger, never to use it to prove herself to others, only to protect what mattered. But looking at Crix's crystalline face, twisted with certainty that he would humiliate her, Jiwoo wondered if protecting Earth's reputation counted as protecting what mattered. The crowd dispersed slowly, cadets whispering among themselves. The human cadets looked at Jiwoo with new expressions. Some showed respect. Others showed concern. One girl approached her after Vex left. "I'm Hana," she said. "My family paid a fortune for my equipment. You brought something actually legendary." She glanced at the knife. "But Crix has never lost a fight. Never even been injured. Are you really going to face him?" Jiwoo touched the knife's handle. It felt warm, as it always did. "My grandfather didn't give me a choice when he made this blade. He chose me to carry it. I won't dishonor his work by backing down." Hana nodded slowly. "Then I hope you know what you're doing, because Crix will destroy you just to make a point. He wants to prove humans don't belong here." That night, in the small room assigned to her, Jiwoo unwrapped the knife and held it in both hands. She could almost feel her grandfather's presence in the metal. He'd hammered this steel thousands of times, folding it, shaping it, putting his entire life skill into creating something perfect. "I hope I'm worthy of this," she whispered to the blade. "I hope I don't let you down." The knife gleamed in the dim light, patient and silent, waiting for her to prove herself. The championship arena was built to hold 10,000 spectators. Every seat was filled. Aliens from dozens of species crowded the stands, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Screens throughout the coalition broadcast the event to billions more watching from their homeworlds. Jiwoo stood in the preparation room, breathing slowly. She could hear the crowd's noise even through the thick walls. The first 2 matches had already finished. Now it was her turn. Hana helped her check her equipment one final time. "The whole academy is talking about this match. Some are betting you'll last less than a minute." "What are you betting?" Jiwoo asked. Hana smiled. "I bet you'd surprise everyone. Not because of the knife, but because you've changed. You fight like you believe in yourself now." Taesung entered the room with Neela. "Crix is warming up. He's telling everyone he'll break your blade in the first exchange to prove legendary weapons mean nothing without legendary warriors." "Let him believe that," Jiwoo said calmly. She drew her grandfather's knife, feeling its familiar weight. The blade caught the light, seeming to glow from within. "He doesn't understand what this blade represents." The call came. Time to enter the arena. Jiwoo walked through the tunnel, her footsteps echoing. The crowd's roar hit her like a physical wave as she emerged into the light. Thousands of aliens, most of them curious about the human with the legendary weapon. She saw the section where human cadets sat wearing traditional Korean flags as bandanas. They stood and cheered as she entered. Across the arena, Crix made his entrance. His crystalline body reflected the arena lights, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the walls. He raised his energy lance and his supporters roared approval. The Vorlian section was the largest in the stands. Commander Vex stood at the arena's center. "This match is conducted under standard championship rules. Combat continues until submission, incapacitation, or referee intervention. Killing blows are forbidden and will result in immediate disqualification." He looked at both fighters. "Do you understand?" "Yes, Commander," Jiwoo said. "I understand," Crix said, his voice carrying across the arena. "But I make no promises about the blade. Weapons break in combat. Accidents happen." Vex's eyes narrowed, but he couldn't argue with the statement. He moved to the edge of the arena. "Fighters ready, begin." Crix charged immediately, exactly as Jiwoo expected. He was overconfident, had never faced a real challenge. His lance thrust toward her center mass with tremendous speed and power. Jiwoo sidestepped, not scrambling desperately but moving with precise economy. Her grandfather's techniques emphasized efficiency over flash. Don't move more than necessary. Don't waste energy on dramatic dodges. The lance missed by a hand's width. Crix spun, swinging horizontally. Jiwoo ducked under the strike, close enough to feel the energy weapon's heat. The crowd gasped. She could have attacked then, but she held back. She was measuring distance, learning Crix's rhythm, understanding his patterns. "Stop running, human," Crix roared, frustrated. His earlier matches had never required this much effort. Opponents either met his attacks head-on and lost, or they retreated until cornered. Jiwoo did neither. She stayed close but unreachable, like smoke. He activated his lance's pulse function, creating an energy shockwave meant to knock her back. Jiwoo saw it coming, saw how his body tensed before activation. She jumped, not away but up and forward over the shockwave. Her blade flashed downward, touching his shoulder. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then Crix's crystalline armor split. Just a hairline crack, but it bled pale blue. The arena went absolutely silent. Crix stared at his shoulder in disbelief. No cadet had ever cut him. His crystalline structure was supposed to be impenetrable. He'd taken hits from energy weapons, plasma blades, molecular cutting tools. Nothing had broken his defense. A simple steel knife had cut him. "Impossible," he whispered. Then rage replaced shock. Crix abandoned all pretense of showmanship. He fought with the brutal efficiency that had conquered worlds for his species. His lance became a blur of strikes. Energy pulses cracked the arena floor. He moved faster than Jiwoo thought possible, his crystalline body refracting light in dizzying patterns. But Jiwoo had trained for this. She'd studied every recording of Crix's matches, learning his patterns. More importantly, she'd practiced her grandfather's techniques until they became instinct. She flowed like water around his attacks, redirecting force instead of meeting it directly. The knife in her hand felt alive. It guided her instincts, helping her see openings a fraction of a second before they appeared. This was what Instructor Rowe had meant about harmony. She and the blade were moving as one, her intent and its purpose perfectly aligned. Crix landed a solid hit on her side, sending her sliding across the arena floor. Medical sensors flashed warnings. Her ribs cracked under the impact. Pain blazed through her body. The referees moved to stop the match. Jiwoo held up a hand. "No, I can continue." She stood slowly, favoring her injured side. Crix watched, confused. By all logic, she should submit. She was outmatched in strength, speed, and durability. She was injured. Continuing was pointless, but Jiwoo remembered her grandfather's words. "Pain is just information. It tells you you're still alive, still fighting. Listen to it, then move past it." She adjusted her stance to protect her injured ribs and raised her knife. "I'm ready." Crix's confusion turned to grudging respect. "You are brave, human." "Foolish, but brave." He hardened his crystalline body further, becoming slower but nearly diamond hard. His armor grew thicker, darker, denser. "Now try to cut me." He advanced like a walking fortress. Jiwoo didn't retreat. She remembered another of her grandfather's lessons. Metal has memory. Strike the same place twice and it remembers. Strike it 1,000 times and it yields. She began targeting Crix's joints. His shoulder first, the same spot she'd cut earlier. The blade rang against crystalline armor, then his elbow, his hip, his knee. Each strike hit the exact same points, precise to the millimeter. The crowd started counting. 10 strikes, 20, 50. Crix laughed. "Pointless. You can't break through." 100 strikes. 150. Jiwoo's arms ached. Her injured ribs screamed with every movement. But she didn't stop. Each strike was perfect, identical to the last. Nyla, watching from the stands, understood what Jiwoo was doing. "She's creating resonance," she told the human cadets around her. "Each strike adds to the last. The crystalline structure will reach a breaking point. 200 strikes. 210. 217. Jiwoo struck Crix's right shoulder for the 217th time. The crystalline structure shattered catastrophically. Cracks spread from the impact point across his entire arm, his shoulder, part of his chest. Pieces of crystal fell away, revealing the softer tissue beneath. Crix roared in pain and disbelief. His impenetrable defense, forged through millions of years of evolution, defeated by persistence and precision. He switched his lance to his left hand, rage overcoming reason. He channeled maximum power into the weapon, enough energy to kill. The rules didn't matter anymore. His pride couldn't accept defeat by a human. The lance screamed toward Jiwoo's heart. Too fast to dodge, too powerful to survive. Jiwoo didn't try to dodge. She stepped forward into the attack, moving on pure instinct, guided by the blade's harmony with her will. Her knife moved in a technique her grandfather called cutting moonlight. The motion was so fast, so perfect, that the blade seemed to teleport from one position to another. There was no visible movement, just the starting position and the ending position. Crix's energy lance split in half. The power dissipated harmlessly. The legendary blade stopped a hair's width from Crix's throat. "Yield," Jiwoo said quietly. The arena was silent. 10,000 spectators held their breath. Crix stood frozen, feeling the blade against his throat. He could probably still fight. He was stronger and his left side remained armored, but he'd lost the moment he tried to kill her and failed. He'd thrown everything at this human, violated the rules, attacked with lethal intent, and she'd stopped him with a technique so perfect he hadn't even seen it happen. Slowly, Crix dropped to his knees. In Vorlian tradition, he bared his throat completely. "I yield." His voice was quiet, awed. "I have conquered worlds. I have defeated hundreds of opponents, but I have never faced a warrior like you." Commander Vex entered the arena, his face showing rare emotion. "In 200 years, I have never seen a cadet combine ancestral technique with legendary equipment so perfectly. This human has demonstrated what the Coalition was founded upon. Mastery comes not from genetic advantage, but from discipline, honor, and the wisdom passed down through generations." The human section erupted in cheers. Then Nyla and her Erythian friends joined. Then one by one, cadets from other species stood and applauded. Even the Vorlian section, initially silent with shock, began to show respect. Their greatest champion had been defeated fairly, brilliantly, by someone who had every reason to be inferior, but proved superior through sheer mastery. Jiwoo bowed to Crix, helping him stand. She bowed to the crowd. Then she bowed to her blade, honoring her grandfather's memory. The farmer's daughter from Earth had just changed how the galaxy viewed humanity. But more importantly, she'd proven something her grandfather believed his entire life: that true strength comes from dedication across generations, from techniques. Within hours, Jiwoo's victory became the most discussed event in Coalition space. News networks broadcast the match on endless repeat, analyzing every movement. Human defeats top Vorlian with ancestral blade dominated headlines across hundreds of worlds. Her grandfather's village on Earth held an impromptu festival, celebrating the blacksmith who'd created something legendary. But not everyone celebrated. The next morning, Jiwoo was summoned to Commander Vex's office. She expected congratulations. Instead, she found Vorlian diplomats waiting alongside Coalition officials. "Cadet Jiwoo," one of the Vorlians began, his crystalline body dark with what she'd learned to recognize as displeasure. "We are filing a formal complaint. Your weapon provides unfair advantages. Legendary artifacts should be banned from competition." Jiwoo started to respond, but Vex held up a hand. "The complaint will be heard by tribunal tomorrow. Until then, you are not to use your knife in any capacity." Walking back to her quarters, Jiwoo felt the weight of politics crushing her victory. She'd won fairly, but the Vorlians couldn't accept that a primitive human had defeated their champion. Now they wanted to erase her victory by changing the rules. Hana was waiting in their room, furious. "This is ridiculous, you won. They're just sore losers." "It's more complicated than that," Jiwoo said quietly. "The Vorlians conquered 3 star systems before joining the Coalition. Their entire culture is built on the idea that they're superior. I challenge that belief, so what? You proved them wrong. I proved them wrong publicly in front of billions. That's dangerous for them. If their people start questioning whether genetic advantages make them superior, their whole society might change." Over the next day, the political situation intensified. Earth's diplomatic corps scrambled to defend Jiwoo. Her brother Dae-hyun was recalled from his warship to testify. Human cadets organized protests demanding the Vorlian complaint be dismissed. But something unexpected happened. Crix requested to see Jiwoo. She found him in the medical wing, his shoulders still wrapped in regeneration fields. Other Vorlian cadets glared at her as she entered, but Crix waved them away. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair. "I want to understand something." Jiwoo sat, uncertain what to expect. "My people believe in strength through superiority," Crix began. "We are stronger, more durable, naturally better warriors than most species. We conquered worlds because we deserve to rule them. That is what I was taught since birth." He touched his shattered shoulder carefully. "You defeated me with a tool your ancestor made by hand. A human with inferior genetics using primitive techniques. This should be impossible. It's not about genetics, Jiwoo said. My grandfather spent 30 years learning to forge properly. I spent my life learning to use his blade. Generations of my family refined these techniques. You're stronger than me, faster than me, but I had something you didn't. Patience refined over centuries. Crix was silent for a long moment. Teach me, he said finally. What? Teach me how you defeated me. Not the blade techniques, I understand those are yours. But the philosophy. How does a weaker fighter defeat a stronger one? My people need to understand this, or we will always lose to opponents like you. It was a stunning request. Vorlians didn't ask to learn from inferior species. But Crix's eyes showed genuine curiosity, not pride. Jiwoo thought about her grandfather's teachings. Strength without technique is just force. Force can be redirected, avoided, outlasted. True strength is knowing when and how to apply power, not just possessing it. They talked for hours. Crix asked question after question about human martial arts philosophy. By the end, Jiwoo realized something important. Her victory had done more than win a match. It had opened Crix's mind to possibilities his culture had never considered. The tribunal convened the next day. The chamber was packed with diplomats, academy officials, and media representatives. Jiwoo sat at a table with Earth's representatives, facing the panel of judges from 5 different species. The Vorlian diplomat presented his case. Legendary weapons create unfair hierarchies. Cadet Jiwoo's blade allowed her to bypass the natural advantages that should have ensured Cadet Crix's victory. If we allow such weapons, combat becomes about who inherits the best artifacts, not who trains hardest. Earth's diplomat countered. Genetic advantages also create hierarchies. Should we ban Vorlians because their crystalline bodies are naturally harder than most species? Should we ban Thalaxians because their reflexes are naturally faster? The knife didn't fight the match. Cadet Jiwoo did. Instructor Rowe testified as an expert witness. I have trained warriors for 4 centuries. I have examined thousands of weapons. Legendary classification is rare because it requires perfect harmony between creator, creation, and wielder. Cadet Jiwoo's grandfather spent 30 years forging that blade. She spent her lifetime learning to wield it. This is not artificial advantage. This is dedication across generations. Then Dae-hyun took the stand. I am Jiwoo's older brother. I served in Earth's military before joining the coalition forces. My grandfather offered me that blade first. He paused and Jiwoo saw pain in his expression. I refused it. Not because I wasn't skilled enough, but because I lacked the patience, the temperament, the spiritual connection it required. My sister was chosen because she embodied our grandfather's values. The blade would be useless in my hands, just fancy metal. To prove his point, Commander Vex arranged a demonstration. 10 elite cadets, including several ranked higher than Crix, attempted to wield Jiwoo's knife. One by one, they failed spectacularly. The blade felt wrong in their hands, unbalanced and awkward. A Thalaxian with lightning reflexes couldn't perform basic techniques. A Keltharian with 4 arms nearly dropped the knife. Taesung tried and found it so heavy he could barely lift it. It's like the blade rejects me, he admitted, embarrassed. When Jiwoo reclaimed the knife, it sang in her hand. She performed a simple form, movements flowing like water, the blade an extension of her arm rather than a separate object. The tribunal deliberated for hours. Finally, the chief judge announced their decision. Legendary weapons remain legal in academy competition. However, we rule that such weapons are inseparable from their wielders. They are not advantages that can be bought, traded, or stolen. They are the culmination of dedication across generations. Cadet Jiwoo's victory stands, the Vorlian diplomat protested, but the decision was final. Jiwoo had won not just the match but the right to keep fighting as her grandfather intended. But new complications arose. With the tribunal settled, weapons collectors and coalition museums renewed their offers for Jiwoo's knife. The numbers became astronomical. One private collector offered enough credits to transform her entire village, to build schools and hospitals and infrastructure that would improve thousands of lives. Earth's diplomatic council contacted her directly. Cadet Jiwoo, we understand your knife has personal value, but consider the good this money could do. Humanity is still integrating into coalition society. We need resources. Your knife could fund our development for years. Jiwoo lay awake that night, torn between duty and honor. Her village was poor. Her family struggled. She could help so many people by selling one knife. Wasn't that more important than sentimentality? Hana tried to help her think through it. What would your grandfather want? He'd want me to help people, Jiwoo said. But he also said the blade was for wielding, not selling. Nyla visited and offered different perspective. Among my people, sacred objects lose their power when commodified. Your blade's value isn't monetary. It's spiritual, cultural, historical. Once sold to a collector, it becomes just metal in a display case. Its purpose dies. Taesung added practical concerns. If you sell, what message does that send? That humans value credits over heritage? That will compromise our principles for money? You've become a symbol, Jiwoo. Like it or not, your choices matter beyond yourself. The pressure mounted until Instructor Rowe summoned Jiwoo again. I have news from Coalition archivists, he said. They researched your knife's metallurgical signature more thoroughly. He showed her ancient records from Earth, dating back 800 years to Korea's Goryeo dynasty. A warrior woman had defended her village against raiders, wielding a blade described as touched by heaven. After her death, the blade vanished from history. The metal signature matches, Rowe explained. Your knife contains fragments of that ancient weapon. Your grandfather didn't find random meteorite. He found a legacy blade, broken or melted through centuries, and reforged it. Jiwoo stared at the records, seeing her knife's true history. It had protected people for 800 years, perhaps longer. Warriors across generations had wielded it, each adding to its legacy. This changes everything, she whispered. She researched further and discovered her grandfather had spent decades searching old battlefields for metal with memory. He believed weapons used honorably absorbed righteous intent, that metal could be purified and reborn stronger. Her knife wasn't just her grandfather's creation. It was the continuation of a tradition spanning centuries, maybe millennia. Every time it protected someone, it carried that memory forward. Armed with this understanding, Jiwoo made her decision. She called a press conference, stunning everyone by addressing the knife controversy directly.